Hello again. I am back. And I'll just be honest, I just changed my shirt and it's the same day as the last video. I felt like I was being deceptive if I didn't say that. So, first of all, I would like to title this video, What Happens When You Lose Your Kids to DCS. So, that question seems practical because when I lost my children, I wish I had a video like this that I could have listened to and I would have been like, oh, okay, now I understand. Because I was so confused and I don't want that for someone else. So if you are a woman or a man and you have just lost your children to DCS and you are panicking and freaking out and thinking, let's go do more drugs and let's get crazy and I'm going to kill the DCS workers, I'm going to fight everybody, I'm going to go get the best lawyer. I can tell you I did all of that and it didn't work out. So I did not kill my DCS worker, by the way. We are totally kosher. I actually love her very much, and she is a really wonderful person, and the judge was also a very wonderful man, but I was just very angry, and I thought all the thoughts. So I first want to say, if you are looking at me and you're like, you really don't look like someone that actually could know what I'm talking about or what I'm going through, because I have heard that from people, like, oh, you don't look like someone that would have, been an addict, or you don't look like someone that would have lost their kids, or any of those things. I'm here to say I did, and I know exactly what it's like, and I've had them back for almost 4 years. So May of 2017, I was sitting on my kitchen floor and I had police all over my house. I had DCS in my house. And I watched my children get taken out of my house and taken into the system. So yes, I have experienced it. And then moving forward, what happens when you lose them? So when they got taken from me, they were placed with one of my family members who only was able to keep them for, I think, 1 to 2 weeks. But how does DCS deal with this? So when I got out of the jail cell, which I mentioned in my last video, I only was in the jail cell for 6 to 7 hours. So I was out the next day. I actually, without making these videos too chaotic, because if I go into every detail about everything, it will sound like a tornado. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to try to avoid over complicating. But when I got out, I walked home and I got to my house and I sat on my steps. My brother came over and he sat on the steps with me and he said, your kids are safe. And I don't really know how he heard that message, but DCS, they will not tell you where your children are right away, unless, of course, it was like your mom or dad or grandma who took them and you know that they're with them. But if it's a different case where your family's not able to take them, then they will be placed somewhere. And I encourage you to trust that they are somewhere safe. And I did not do that. I panicked and I freaked out, and I did all of the worst possible mistakes that you can do. For the next 5 months, I did not know where my children were, because once they left that family's home, they went into a family who I did not know, and once they were placed there, the only information I was given was that they were with this certain, they gave me the name, I looked them up on Facebook, and all I had to hold on to was a picture of these people and this family. I didn't know anything about them. So what happens, now this is the important part, okay? When DCS takes your children, they are temporarily going to keep them until you get better. So that is what I wish I would have known right there. If someone would have said, okay, we're just going to hold your children, and then you are going to have some time to get better, and then we're going to give them back. Nobody said that to me. And that is why I panicked every single day. So think of it in steps, okay? Like, think of it as a protection, because you don't want your children to see you in the condition you're in. So the state has come up with a program to put your children in a new home where they are going to be hopefully safe. I'm not going to say that always happens, but most foster parents I've ever met, I have just thought, wow, they're amazing. So your children are now in this, I like referencing Bible verses, and I hope that doesn't bother anyone, but there's a verse about a hedge of protection. And imagine that they are just inside of this hedge of protection, while you, my friend, can get better and get healthy. And I know for sure in our area, most areas, DCS provides resources. They're not always the best. Sometimes it's like sitting in a class with a bunch of other addicts and you're painting popsicle sticks. I did that. I remember building a popsicle stick house with a bunch of other addicts. I know sometimes the resources are a little lame, but it's probably the best that they can provide you at the time. So take the resources, do the things, get away from the bad, and once you are passing drug tests, and this obviously, not every single time your children get taken, it is because you're on drugs. I do know that because I've known many other people who've got their children taken and they're like, I'm not an addict. I don't, like, there's this whole other scenario. And for that, I can't relate. I don't know what that's like to have your children taken when it's not something you have done. I do know of women who, sadly, their children are not living with them because of false accusations, and that's not what I'm referring to. So this is if this is your responsibility because of a mistake that you've made, do the things that they ask. Stop doing the drugs. I know that sounds so easy, me sitting here saying it, because for the first 5 months that my children were in foster care, I did not follow those rules. But I think if I could give any bit of advice, do the right thing every day. Wake up, do the right thing. My biggest advice, obviously, and I hate the word advice, maybe my biggest takeaway from my experience is that surrendering to God was the answer for me. And I know that is a very humongous decision, and it takes people walking alongside you and showing you the way. Because when someone just hands you a Bible, okay, I have a Bible in my van. It is like, I have Bibles everywhere, but I wish I brought it in. It's like this thick, okay? Like, someone just hands that to you and says, here you go. That's really nice, first of all. That's great. I love when people do that. But it also takes people walking alongside you to show you the way. Like, what does this Bible mean and say? And I encourage you to find someone that will do that for you. There are good churches. There are very bad churches. And I am always willing to talk to anybody about my experience through that. But I could maybe make a later video in a different shirt about that. So my biggest encouragement, okay, like what I would want you to take away from this video if you are experiencing losing your children because of drugs. DCS does not want to keep your children. They do not have interest in stealing and I had every person telling me that. Your children, they're so cute. Everybody wants them. They want to adopt them. They want to keep them. They're going to sell them. I heard everything, and I believed everything. And what I would want you to know is they want to give them back. My judge, he would repeat to me in court, your children are best with you. Despite if you believe that or not, because really most days I don't believe that. But that's just a fight I fight. But your children are best off with the mom and the dad, or at least one of you, if it's just one of you. Children need their parents. They need the healthy version of their parents. They don't need the version that you were when DCS took your children. So, I think back to how I felt the day my children got taken. Every time I got called into the DCS office and I had to sit with my caseworker and I had hate, the hate. I had so much hate for her. I would look at her and just, everything in me was just burning, and I would just, I can't explain to you how I felt about this woman. And she was so patient through all of that. And I mean, there were times that I was like screaming at her on the phone. I remember one time I walked out of court and I just fell over on the ground just crying, and she walked by me and thought, like, of course she's healthy minded, so she's thinking, why can't you just do the right thing and get your children back? Because when you're in the midst of all of that, you can't see clearly to see that that is what you're supposed to do. Everything just seems so confusing, and so everyone's so against you. And the answer truly, truly is that they want to give your children back. They want you to have custody again. And so keep that in mind when you're meeting with them and you're talking with them. And Ask people to help you become what your children need. I did that so much. I mean, I would constantly ask people or search for ways to be the mom that they needed. And try your best to be humble. I don't think that everybody has that ability, but ask God to make you humble and make you into the parent that your children need, and not to be selfish. So, I guess the title of this was What Happens When You Lose Your Kids. So I can share, after 9 months of not having my children, and the first 5 months of just not understanding, being so confused, believing lies, being so angry and so bitter and so hateful, the last 4 months are the ones that counted towards good points. DCS doesn't give you good points, but if it was like that, we'll say, then my good points came at the end. Once I surrendered to God, I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to be a mom. I want my children. And I just started changing. I cut out the bad. I talked about that a little earlier. Started going to church, getting a new crowd. It was extremely lonely and scary, but I did those things, and then I started to get to visit my children more. And then it was February of 2018, and I had done all the things DCS asked me to do, which were drug testing every week, multiple parenting classes and drug classes and safety classes. There was a list of things that they required, and I did them. I got myself an apartment. I got a job, which I had the most amazing boss who I walked in 1 month after being sober, and I said, I'm a mess. I'm a big, big mess, and I need a job. And she let me work there. She never judged me. She let me miss when I needed to go to court, which I know is not everyone's case, because finding a job when you have to go to court and you have to go to parenting classes and you have to go visit your kids, that is really hard. It's actually like I have a book of like big goals that seem impossible, and one of them is like to provide an income for these women that they can do while they're walking through this. Because believe it or not, if you're not one of these women and you're just watching this, there are a lot of women who don't have their children, and I know there's a huge voice for foster kids, and that's amazing, and I hope that never changes and that keeps growing. But there's not a voice for the women, the moms who have lost their children. And that's going to be me, because they need fostered too. And I just want to be their voice. Like it's so emotional for me. Like I can feel everything in me, just like, that feeling you get when you're gonna cry. Like I get that when I start thinking about them, because they are so alone and they're so looked down on. It's like I think of the woman at the well all the time, how she went up to the well and she was just not a popular woman. Like she's the modern day woman who's just a complete wreck, and Jesus showed her grace and truth. That's what Jesus showed people, and it gave her so much encouragement. And he didn't even he wasn't like, oh, you're so sweet and awesome, go on and love everybody. Like, he pointed out her faults and then he gave her hope. And that is very encouraging. And I think of the wife in the book of Hosea. I mean, wow, what a picture. I can kind of explain it if you have no clue what I'm saying. She was this woman who God asked this man to marry her. And she was a prostitute and she was very unlovely. And he married her and he obeyed God to marry her. And she did not appreciate him and she left him and went back into the market to look for other things, which symbolizes to me like idolatry. And she got taken and sold. She was at a place where people were bidding on her and they were going to buy her. And God asked Hosea to go and buy her back, no matter how much it cost. Buy her back. Outbid everybody. And Hosea obeyed that and he went and he bought her back. And she was so undeserving. Like, she didn't deserve that. And God does that for us, okay? Like, he will buy you back. No matter how filthy and how horrible of a sinner you are, how wretched and, I mean, prostitute-y, whatever word you want to use, drug addict, like any of the things, he will buy you back. And I don't want to get off too far on a tangent, but I want to add those little truths into these videos because they really are what changes the heart. And I would love to talk to anyone about any of that. If you would reach out to me, I can try to figure out how to like link an email or like I said, I am not a professional YouTuber, so I can find ways to find you if you want to talk to me about any of those things, because that's where the healing begins. So moving on to the very last thing I'll say to kind of cap this video is that it was February of 2018 and I had 2 weekend visits with my children. So I visited them. They came to my apartment for the whole weekend. I had to take them home, which was so painful, by the way. I know that even though you know the end goal is your kids are going to live with you, it is just painful. I mean, it's like excruciating. And so when I would give them back to who had them, which were very good people, like they took very good care of them, it was very painful. But then in February, I was able to go get them and I was able to keep them. And I will definitely make a further video about what that was like. I think that's the 4th video I plan to make, but that was a very painful time in my life. Even after getting them back, I had very, very unrealistic expectations, and I want to encourage people to not do that. So that is definitely going to be another video I make. I think I'm done with all of this. I'm going to now try to expand on what it was like for my children to be in foster care. So I hope you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, I am not very closed off of a person unless it's like something that I just flat should not share. I can try to discern between that, but I am willing to like talk to anyone, mostly women. So pretty much that's kind of important that I speak mostly to women because that is what's most appropriate. And if you are a man going through this, I'm sure there are resources that we could find or whatever the case. But I think I'm just rambling now. So goodbye.